When I told my wife about my coworker's love confession, she said, "Why would anyone want you when I don't even want you?" She was still laughing 5 minutes later while holding her stomach and wiping tears from her eyes, like I just told the best joke she'd ever heard, and I stood there in our kitchen holding the letter that Caroline from work had given me. Wait, let me get this straight. Someone actually told you they have feelings for you? Someone with eyes and options? She grabbed the letter from my hand, reading it out loud in a mocking voice. She says she's been in love with you for 2 years. 2 years of what? Watching you eat sandwiches at your desk and wear the same 5 shirts? The letter was sincere from a woman who'd been nothing but kind to me. Caroline is a good person. She's smart and successful. My wife Lisa snorted. Then she needs therapy because no smart, successful woman would want you. Look at yourself. You're 41 and balding. Your stomach hangs over your belt. You make $60,000 a year. What exactly does she see in you? She walked around me like she was examining damaged goods. Is she blind? Desperate? Does she have a fetish for mediocre men? Lisa pulled out her phone and started looking up Caroline's social media. Oh my god, she's actually pretty. This has to be a prank. Did your coworkers put her up to this? She showed me Caroline's photo like it was evidence of a crime. No one who looks like that would want someone who looks like you. I'd been with Lisa for 15 years, and she'd spent most of them telling me how lucky I was that she settled for me. Caroline says she admires my kindness, my work ethic, my sense of humor. Lisa doubled over, laughing again. Your sense of humor? You haven't made me laugh in a decade except right now. Your kindness? You mean being a doormat? Your work ethic? You mean staying at the same dead-end job forever? She called her sister on speaker. Diana, you have to hear this. Someone told Robert they have feelings for him. A real person, not a bot or a scammer, an actual woman. Diana started laughing too. Stop lying. Who would want Robert? Remember when we used to joke that you were doing charity work by marrying him? They'd made that joke at our wedding, in their speeches, in front of my family. It's true. Some coworker named Caroline. She's probably having a mental breakdown. Lisa pulled up more photos, then started a group video call with her mother and 3 sisters. Everyone needs to see this. Robert thinks a woman wants him. Her mother appeared on screen. Robert? Our Robert? The one who sweats when he eats? Her other sisters joined laughing. Is she homeless? Does she need money? Lisa was showing them Caroline's photos. Look at her. She has a master's degree, owns her own condo, does marathons. Why would she want Robert who gets winded walking upstairs? Her mother had a theory. Maybe she lost a bet, or it's community service? They all laughed while Lisa turned the phone to show them me standing there. Look at his face. He actually believes someone could want him. Caroline apparently wants him, I said quietly. Lisa's face changed. She's not serious. She probably feels sorry for you. Maybe you cried at work about how pathetic you are. Oh my god, did you pay her? She grabbed her purse, checking the bank statements. Did you hire someone to pretend to like you? Her family was still on the phone suggesting theories. Maybe she's doing a documentary on desperate men. Maybe it's a sociology experiment on how low attractive women will go. Maybe she has brain damage. Lisa suddenly gasped. I bet she doesn't know you're married. You took off your ring, didn't you? You're tricking her. I showed my ring still on my finger. She knows I'm married. She said she waited 2 years hoping things would change but couldn't stay quiet anymore. Lisa was getting angry now. You probably lied to her, told her I'm abusive or cold, made yourself the victim. I never talked about my marriage at work. I pulled away and got my phone. Maybe Caroline sees something you never bothered to look for. Lisa laughed. There's nothing to see. Your wallpaper, background noise, a placeholder human. You're what women settle for when they give up on life. I grabbed Caroline's letter and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Lisa demanded. To thank Caroline for being the first person in 15 years to say something kind to me. Lisa screamed with laughter. Kind? She pities you. When she sees you up close in real light, she'll run. Your weird-shaped head, your uneven ears, that thing you do with your mouth when you think, the way you walk like a broken robot. She'll be disgusted. But Caroline wasn't disgusted. She smiled when she saw me, said I had kind eyes, gentle hands, a warm smile, things Lisa said didn't exist. When I filed for divorce, Lisa brought her entire family to court. Your Honor, he can't leave me. Look at him, then look at me. Even at my worst, I'm better than his best. He'll die alone and unloved without me. The judge stared at her. Ma'am, that's not how divorce works. Full story on channel, link below. I crashed out at my sister's birthday. I have not cried in front of my family in 11 years, until last Saturday. My sister turned 30 and there were about 15 people around the table at the restaurant. Everything was warm and easy and I was genuinely glad to be there. My dad stood up partway through the meal and gave a speech. He talked about the woman she had become and his voice had real and genuine pride in it the whole way through, and he listed the things she had accomplished with the kind of specific detail that only happens when someone has actually been paying attention across the years. Her career, her travels, the way she had rebuilt herself after a genuinely difficult couple of years that had tested her, the decisions she had made, and why they had been the right ones. He said she reminded him of the best of everything good about this family. He was completely glowing and every word of it was deserved and the whole table was with him. Then he looked across at me and said, and of course we are all very proud of your brother too, in his own way. In his own way, I have spent 17 years in a career my dad has never once asked me to describe to him. I have built a life he has shown no curiosity about in all of that time. I have been raising my son alone for 4 years since his mother left, completely and entirely alone. And in those 4 years, my dad has not called me once to ask how I was managing, or what I needed, or what my son's name was, or what he was like, or what his favorite color was, or what he wanted to be when he grew up. Not once, 4 years, nothing, in his own way. I did not plan what happened. My chair scraped back and I stood up and my voice came out much louder than I intended, louder than the restaurant deserved, and I asked my dad what that meant. What way specifically? I told him he had just given a 7-minute speech about my sister, which she completely deserved, and he had used my name to fill one single sentence at the end of it. And I needed to know what that sentence was actually supposed to mean, because I had been waiting 17 years for him to say something about me that felt like he had given it any real thought first. The table went completely silent. My sister's hand was on my arm. I did not sit down. My dad said he had not meant anything by it, that it was just something you said. I told him I knew that. I told him that was the entire problem, that I could see he had not meant a single thing by it at all, and I needed him to understand what it was like to sit with that, because I had been sitting with it for a very long time. He started to say something, and I held my hand up and told him I had not finished. I said I was not angry at him for loving my sister. I was not asking for a competition. I said I just needed to exist in this family as something more than in his own way, to be seen as something specific and real by him while he still had the chance to do that. And I needed it to start happening now, and not at some point when it became easier. Then I sat back down and I put my face in my hands and I cried in a way I have not cried in public since I was 23 years old. Not quietly, not in any way that preserved anything, just completely and entirely in the middle of my sister's 30th birthday dinner, in a restaurant in front of 15 people. No Nobody spoke. Then my sister put both arms around me and pulled me in and held on and said, "I know." Just those 2 words, "I know." I called my dad the next morning. He said he was sorry, and he had not realized, and he wanted to do better. I told him I believed him, and I needed him to actually do it now, because I was running out of ways to pretend it did not matter. He said, "Okay." We stayed on the phone for over an hour. It was the longest conversation we had had in 4 years, and neither of us mentioned that. Subscribe for more stories. I stopped being the peacekeeper. The family fell apart in 11 days. I had been the peacekeeper for 17 years. Since I was 19 years old and my parents first started to really struggle with each other, I was the one who called my dad after my mom said something that hurt him and explained what she had actually meant. I was the one who called my mom after my dad did something thoughtless and told her he loved her even if he had no idea how to show it. I was the one who sat between my 2 brothers at Christmas and at every family gathering and steered every conversation carefully away from every subject that had any chance of detonating. I was the one everyone rang when something went wrong, and I was the one who fixed it and smoothed it over and absorbed whatever was left. And I had been doing that since I was 19 years old, and I did all of that consistently for 17 years while having a life of my own that nobody ever called about. My therapist asked me one session about 6 months ago to describe what I got out of being the peacekeeper. I said I got the family staying together. She said that was what the family got out of it. She asked again what I personally got out of it. I sat there for a while and looked at the floor, and I could not give her an answer. I did not announce that I was stopping. I did not write a message or make a phone call or give anyone any warning. I just stopped. Day 1. My mom called me to tell me my dad had canceled their plans for the weekend without telling her about it properly. I said that sounded frustrating and that I hoped they could talk it through. That was it. That was the whole conversation. I did not call my dad afterwards. Day 3. My brother Joel called me because our brother Marcus had said something at a family dinner I had not attended, and it had not gone well. I said that sounded like something they needed to sit down and work out between themselves. Joel went very quiet and then said he would call me later. He did not call me later. Day 6. My mom called again. Things with my dad were getting worse, and she was upset and she wanted to know what I thought she should do. I told her I thought she should call him and tell him exactly that directly. She said I was being strange. I told her I was trying something different and I was sorry I could not be more help. Day 8. My dad called me. It was the first time he had called me in about 4 months. He asked if I was alright. I said I was, and I asked how he was. He said things were difficult with my mom. I said I was genuinely sorry to hear that, and I hoped they could work it through together. He said he genuinely did not know how to do that and that he never had. I said I believed that he did if he sat with it. He went quiet and we ended the call shortly after. Day 11. My mom called me at 8 in the morning to tell me that she and my dad were separating. Not divorcing, she said. Separating to think. My brother Marcus had refused to come to Sunday dinner. Joel was not speaking to Marcus. She said everything was falling apart and she needed me. I told her I was sorry and I genuinely meant it. Then I said something I had been turning over in my head for 11 days. I told her that everything falling apart right now did not mean that I had been the one holding it together. It meant that the cracks had always been there and I had been filling them in, and that nobody in this family, including me, had ever needed to learn how to fill them themselves. She was quiet for a long time after that. I let the silence sit. I did not fill it. I genuinely do not know what happens next, and I have realized that is the first time I have been able to say that in 17 years. For the first time since I was 19, I am not the one responsible for figuring it out. That is either the saddest thing I have ever said or the most honest one I have ever said. I think it is probably both. Subscribe for more stories.
I walked out of my nephew's first birthday after what my brother said. My brother Dan and his wife have been trying for a second child for 2 years. I knew that. I had absolutely no idea he had decided that was somehow my fault. The party was at their house. About 20 people, streamers, a smash cake, the whole first birthday setup done properly with real thought and care. I had been there from the start, helping set up the garden, blowing up balloons, cutting sandwiches into animal shapes, because I had looked up a tutorial the night before specifically because I knew Theo would find them funny. My nephew turned 1 and he was perfect and delighted and absolutely covered in pink icing, and I was standing there watching him bang his small hands on the tray of his high chair, laughing at nothing in particular, and I was genuinely completely happy. It was exactly one of those afternoons you want to stay in. Dan pulled me aside just after the cake. He said he needed a quick word and he guided me by the arm into the kitchen and closed the door. He said he and his wife had been struggling for a long time and he had been thinking about it carefully, and he felt I needed to know that a very significant source of the stress was me. I asked him what he meant by that. He said I had been leaning on his wife far too much emotionally, and it was not fair on her, that I called her too often, sometimes multiple times a week, that I turned up at their house too regularly, and his wife felt she could not say no to me because of our friendship and the history between us, and it was affecting their relationship and the entire atmosphere at home, and he had come to believe that the ongoing stress was a real contributing factor in their fertility problems. He said he had thought for a very long time about whether to say something and had decided I deserved to hear it from him directly rather than slowly feeling the distance and not understanding where it was coming from. I stood in his kitchen and looked at him for a long and quiet moment without saying a single word. Then I told him I called his wife because she is my best friend and she calls me back just as often and not once in 4 years. Not in any conversation we have ever had has she indicated she did not want to hear from me. I told him blaming me for their fertility struggles was one of the cruelest things anyone had ever said to me, and I needed him to sit with whether he actually believed that or whether he was looking for somewhere to put pain that had nowhere useful to go. He said I was being defensive about it. I told him I was being precise. He said he had only been trying to be honest with me because he thought that was what family did. I told him there was a version of honesty that helped people and a version that just caused damage, and he needed to decide which one he had just delivered to me in his kitchen on his son's first birthday, and whether his wife had known he was planning to have this specific conversation today of all days. He did not have an answer for that. I went back into the living room. I picked up my bag from the chair where I had left it. I crouched down and kissed Theo on the very top of his head and said, "Happy birthday, little one," quietly so only he could hear it. Then I stood up and walked out of the front door without looking back, and got in my car and sat in the quiet for a few minutes before I drove home. His wife called me that same evening. She had genuinely not known Dan was going to do that. She was furious with him, and she was sorry it had happened in the middle of their son's first birthday of all days. I told her none of it was on her. She said she knew. We stayed on the phone for over 2 hours. She did most of the talking and I just listened. Dan has not called me. I have thought about whether I should be the one to call him, and I have decided the next move is his. He knows where I am, and he knows what he said. Subscribe for more stories.